Showing up
That's
is
the so
important.
exactly,
Like you have to
exactly.
show up for yourself. Funnily, they had a product department. Not funnily, they had a product department. Being a design lead in a early stage startup is a lonely job.
Hey everyone, how are you guys? Welcome again to Design Hack Podcasts. And I still don't know the number of the podcast, but it's been really awesome to have you guys here. And we're gonna start this podcast with a very special guest, Arpita. I'm gonna let her be on stage in a minute. She is the design lead of Adplist, and she has done a lot of work around design. Uh, Here, Arpita. Yep, you're on the stream. How are you?
Hi, Abhay. How are you? I'm excited to be here
Wow, we have been talking about this for the so long time.
for so long. I'm
Yeah,
super happy that you're having this podcast. Super excited. All the best for you. I'm so excited to see how this goes. And thank you for having me, really.
super awesome. Let's start off the conversation. Actually, I usually start off a conversation by asking everyone how really they started because that kind of sets a ground to build conversation up. So tell me, how did you really got started in design and like how was your journey in design like?
Sure. I think like a lot of designers in this country and around the world, I'm a self-taught designer. My journey started just slightly a little before college when I was dabbling into like Photoshop and a little curious about what this new software is, and I started around by playing with it. Post which, I kind of lost interest in the field I was in. I was doing engineering, and I put all my resources into understanding design, learning design. Well, it was a way for me to kind of earn a little money. I didn't think it would become like a official career option, but by second year, I started looking at it more deeply. Um, I started off as a graphic designer because back in the day there was, and this is like about 10 years ago, there was UX was not very prevalent. So I went through my journey as a graphic designer and then transitioned into a product designer because I wanted to make an impact in design and I wanted to see it happen, right? And I felt like I was not able to do that in graphic design, given the marketing and advertising field. But psychology and people and products really had my attention. So when I discovered UX, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've been looking for. So I would say that's how my journey kind of started, like all the way from graphic, transitioned into product, and now here I am.
Super awesome, super awesome. I really wanted to ask one thing before we get to the next section. That, as you said, like started learning Photoshop and you started learning these things because a lot of designers kind of start with this. Really want to ask that you did an engineering, right? So, did you started doing Photoshop before that, during that years, and secondly, how did that help kind of in your college years? That's how I want to.
Well, I did start a little bit before, like I would say around 12th grade. So in my 12th grade, we were actually not allowed, I was in a boarding school. So we were not really allowed to have laptops or cell phones. So a little after, like during vacations and all, when I used to come home and I get some time with my laptop, I used to dabble with it. But in my first year, I actually got to like go all hands on, like sit with it for hours. In terms of how it helped me in college, well, I was a part of this chapter called IEEE, which
Hmm.
was you're part of various student chapters. So I was part of IEEE, and in IEEE they asked me to hone a technical skill. So I was a computer science student till 12th grade, and I was very passionate about computer science. So I told them, like I want to do coding as a side thing, and they were like, "No, you're doing ECE. Don't do coding when you're like doing two courses, so don't do this." So I was like, then what else am I supposed to do? So I had a conversation with one of my seniors, and he suggested, why don't you just try designing, like designing for us, start designing for the chapter. And that's how it kind of started. Like I actually didn't think I would take it up as a serious role. But once I started doing it more, I became very passionate about it. By the second year, I was already preparing different tech loop. Like, we used to have this session called Tech Loop session by IEEE, where I used to try and share my design learnings and graphic design learnings, but still, like, it was quite exciting. And it was very new for all of us around. Everyone wanted to learn design. So I found like this small community of the three or four people in my chapter who liked designing. Then I started mentoring people to learn the tool so that they can take over uh, as the next designers of that chapter. And eventually, I started freelancing. So I would say uh, it helped me kind of build my network in college. I was also part of this. I would say an organization in the college called Creation Labs, who used to generally go for like hackathons and projects and things like that. I had the chance to host a couple of hackathons when I was in college and attend a few by Camtech and MIT because I was into design, right? And I could bring that value onto the team. So it was quite exciting to get that exposure, I would say, during college with all the other people during fests, designing things, talking to other people who are probably designing posters in their chapters. So I think it really helped me get the whole networking thing in place and find my place actually in college. That's how it
Nice.
helped.
Nice. I think you will agree that a lot of designers and including you, mentorship and clubs have been an important part of how we kind of get into design. Because I think even if a lot of designers learn design, they don't in college. How do you get a chance to learn like when you're a fresher, right? These clubs and kind of gives you the chance, and then eventually, as you said, like mentorship has been a big
For
part. Like
sure.
you, yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
I think when I started out, mentorship was not available for me. Like, I had these couple of
Hmm.
seniors who would probably nudge me in the right direction or something like that. But I would say nobody was aware during that time as to what to even do. Like, I would say Photoshop, YouTube tutorials did everything for me. Uh, I tried to be the mentor later on, but it was quite difficult to find a mentor back in the day. But clubs were certainly a good motivation. Like, if you joined a technical chapter, it's actually pretty good. Like, they will always push you towards a technical skill.
That's curious. I think that's how, because you joined a graphic design, like eventually you were doing graphic design, but
Yeah.
you were in a technical college, you were doing engineering. They did push you towards technical, while I'm assuming, while you did not understand, like, did not wanted to pursue that exact technical side, you found that centerpiece, I guess.
Yeah, it was quite the balance. It was quite the balance. I was able to try and focus on it, didn't take away too much from my degree at that point of time. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. Uh, as we have seen that a lot of like the college has helped you a lot, and like it has been a super awesome journey. I really want to ask, like, once college finished or during college, how did you started your first design jobs? What was your first design jobs? And if you are okay to tell, what was the first pay? That's how I usually ask.
Sure. I would say that in terms of the first design job ever, there used to be this website called 99 Designs,
Hmm.
where you kind of go and tell that I can do this, I can do that, and then hopefully someone will reach out to you. So uh, in that process, I got connected with one person, and I basically have hustled throughout to get where I am. So I have literally tried everything. Like, every website out there I have tried. So I think my first gig was officially paid gig was via 99 Designs, where I was to design like this logo. And I have that logo till date so that
Wow.
I can look back and like see how far I have come. And I remember I got paid like 5 grand, 5,000 Indian rupees. That's all for it. But at that point of time, I was like, wow, you know, this is going to sponsor
That,
my
yeah.
trip.
Wow,
That
I think it's never about the money for the first job. It's always about you cracked it after so much hustle.
Yeah. And then I think there was a dry spell for like 2 months. bounds where I was not able to get any return bounds. So I just started applying in more different websites. Like there was freelancer.in. There were two types of things that used to happen there. There used to be a bidding and there used to be contests. So I used to give my fair shot at things on the contest. Like if I like a problem statement there, I'd be like, okay, I'll just design it and take part in the contest. So I started winning a few contests like that. And I think it just after that it just kept happening. Like I started telling people around me that, hey, if you're looking for a designer, then this is what you can reach out to me. And I started working for these small startups that were coming out of my college. Like different people who want to pay like a nominal amount and get like their branding done. So I pretty much dabbled with anything and everything that came my way. Like I said yes for almost everything. I didn't think about the money actually that much. I just kept working. And I think by the end of my second year, I became much more confident with these conversations, understanding how much I want and I don't want. So I started working with this small agency of sorts as a contractor and kind of helping them get their projects in place, right? While I was still in college. Like I said, it sponsored all my trips. So I was very happy. And yeah, I think that's how my first few jobs were.
That has been interesting. Uh, I think the one thing a lot of designers don't do currently is they kind of try some places, and then they, if they don't get a reply back, if that the demotivation comes really very fast. So I think having that motivation that you have to go for, you have to hustle. Eventually, something might happen, but you have to
Yeah.
hustle. Yeah, I think
Yeah, showing up
that's
is
the zone.
important.
Exactly,
Like you have to
exactly,
show up for yourself. Like there is no other way. And also, like I think I've been hearing this a lot these days. Like success doesn't come without failure, right? So
exactly.
it's fine. Like there have been people who have not paid me, and like have taken all the work and then bailed. And like too many learnings come when you fail, right? And I think that was really really good. Yeah.
No, I think that's also an important part of being a designer, because if you don't learn the way, like how you have to deal with people, how the other things happen, you won't be able to do justice like in your journey. That's what I
Surely,
will say.
surely. Totally.
Super
And
awesome.
also, it's super difficult to learn communication in those early years of college as well. Uh, so, a lot of people can make a fool of you, right? And I think that helps build a lot of skills that we are actually not taught in our
Mhm.
universities or schools. So, that's quite good. Yeah.
Agreed, agreed. As till now, I've heard a lot of like branding, graphic, but I really want to know how further the design roles in your life evolved, and how did you kind of pursue those roles? That's the question.
Sure. Well, so there was this one point in time where I had to choose between VIT, my college, and an agency called Happy McGarry Bowen. And I worked with that agency for a while as a graphic designer. That's I would say, my first official full time in office role. Post which I kind of started exploring more agencies. I felt like that agency was probably not the right fit. So I explored another agency, worked with them for a year. Then I realized that maybe I don't like the agency side. So let's go to the client side. So that's when I transitioned to Ola.
Mm.
And I worked with Ola for like a good 1.5, 2 years in their Ola Foods department. And it was a great journey. I would say working in a corporate organization gave me a lot of insights on how they work. And funnily, they had a product department. Not funnily, they had a product department as well. And that product department was something that I kind of managed to connect with on few
Mm.
topics. Like we had certain things that the marketing team used to work with them for. So I got a little curious and I was like, okay, there was this really nice design lead at that point of time, or I would say a senior designer in Ola. And I had like a really good chat with her, try to understand what was happening. And in 2018, my brain just like opened up. Like I just discovered this entirely new field. Actually, the field of advertising and marketing is so hectic, right? At least in the companies that I have worked with, I never got the time to learn anything new. So when I came to Ola, I actually for the first time took a pause. Like I could breathe for a change. So I learned new things. And during that time, I have these two friends that I used to meet every day, and we used to just discuss various ideas. Like, so they are both developers and I'm a designer. One is back end and one specializes more in front end. And we just used to keep discussing ideas, and my curiosity kept peaking, right? That if I had to design something for them based on these ideas, graphic designing is not going to help me get there. So there is obviously something else that is going
Mm.
to make it happen. So I started reading, I started studying a lot. I took that 2 years while I was in Ola to really learn. Like I took out a lot of time for learning. And then eventually, once I got a little comfortable with the field, I made my portfolio and I applied for roles. And I got my first gig with Head Out. And that was life changing because I got to work with one of the best people in the industries and learned a lot from all of them. Each and every one of them had so much to bring on the table. I would say the leadership of the company is also great. So I got to learn what a good culture is, what a good work life balance is. And that was like life changing for me. I don't think something like that, like I realized that, oh shit, this is exactly what I have been looking for my entire life. And the kind of learnings that I got from there were immense. But unfortunately, the pandemic hit, right? And work slowed down. And post which, you start looking for other gigs, right? In the side. Um, and during that time, I remember Siddharth, my product manager at that point of time, suggesting that why don't you try mentorship, right? And I was like, Abhi to aayi hu. Like, what am I going to bring to the table? And he mentioned this one trait that uh, I ask the right questions, right? Or I focus on the right things. So I started mentoring, and that was another step in my journey which was very unexpected, I would say. I never thought I would I don't look at myself as a mentor. I think even today when I talk to my mentees, or I would say they're all like my friends, like literally all of them are like my friends. I chill with them, I hang out with them, I probably like host them at my place very often, right? And this is something that I build so many bonds by just mentoring, and I learned so much by just giving. So that's
Mm.
where my journey started with Growth School. And I started working with them and working on their UX curriculum that was there. I worked closely with Anudeep to help manage his batches and also be a mentor in 4 of their cohorts. And post which, I also got the chance to work with the rest of the team, and it was really nice. I think it was a great learning experience for me. I had never worked with such an early stage startup, and I got to wear a lot of hats as well. I was doing like design holistically, post which mentorship became such an active job in my life while I was with Growth School that I realized that along with design, along with product design, I certainly do love giving back, right? And that actually helps me in return. Like forget about what it's doing for others, it's doing a lot for me. So
Mm.
I started doing it more actively, and that's when I became a mentor first at ADP List, right? And it was like 1.5 2 years down the career that I've had as a product designer, and about 6 years as a graphic designer. So I actually was open to mentoring in both. I didn't have any qualms about not doing graphics. So I joined ADP List as a mentor, and I started working with them and volunteering with them for different things like mentor engagement and things like that in India. And soon I was talking with them for an opportunity, and here I am today working on two of the things that I love, design and mentorship. And it's been a crazy ride, like I would say. So this is my story in short.
This has been a crazy journey for sure. I think, as you mentioned about ADP and other places, I think what I can understand, like head out first was the breaking point in your life where you kind of
For sure.
got exactly into the place where you wanted to be. And I think
Totally.
the second point that I eventually gonna come to is uh, like in especially in head out, you got the mentorship also what you wanted for the first time, and finding the right people around you, finding the right culture, and I think everything played out really really well at that point. And then eventually as you grew you realized like mentorship is a part, and that kind of paved your journey, which I really like, because as we said earlier, like until and unless you try things, until and unless you get the right opportunity, it's gonna be like hustle, right? But as
Yeah,
soon as you get that, it's like you will find your own paths. That's the
for
thing.
sure. I remember when I was even interviewing for Head Out, uh, like the CEO at that point of time was very unsure, right? And Sid was like, no, there is something in this portfolio. Like, let's give it a shot, right? And I'm so glad that they trusted me and took that confidence and that leap of faith with me, because for me it was everything. Like, if that wouldn't have happened, I don't know where I'd be for sure. Like all credit goes to the team. Like I got to work with not only Siddharth but also like Nitish Yadav. I learned so much about typography in a way that I never understood, and I learned so much about design systems. I was working on design systems at that point of time. So I I learned so much. Like I had this small idea about product design, and I learned like a really holistic picture in such a short period of time that it was immense. Yeah.
Super awesome, super awesome. Like as you have told, like you worked in Ola, Head Out, Growth School, now ADP. So I really wanna ask, like, currently being a design lead, what has been your experience like currently, and how is that evolved just being in ADP? Like, what has been the thinking? Because previously you were thinking mentorship, and now because you are a design lead, you have to lead some people. So how that journey has been till now?
Well, being a design lead in a early stage startup is a lonely job, right?
Mhm.
It's for a long time it's a one-person job, at least in the way
Yeah,
that we work.
yeah.
So in ADP List, when I joined in, the way we work is we hire the leads for the team every. Are you able to hear me?
Just a second. Yeah, now I can. Yeah, yeah.
Great. And as a so as an individual contributor for the longest time in my journey, there was a period of time when we had hired um, someone to help out with design, but managing is actually a lot more work than it seems, right? So when we work in a very very fast paced company and things are like, we try to churn things almost every week to every 2 weeks. It is very important for us to keep that pace, right? And managing can take away from that pace sometimes.
Yeah.
So after the first hire didn't work out, we decided to plan when is the necessity for something like this, and we have that planned out. Currently I am the only designer, so I would say that my work is to make sure that I can take care of the business objectives and the product, the community objectives, right? And be there for design, holistically pave the path and culture for my company's design team that is coming up. I did get a chance to work with a lot of students who were doing their projects with ADP List for 3 to 4 months, and mentor them and help them become the designers that they want to do. I'm fortunate that all of them are in good jobs right now. So I got to work with a lot of them. And post which I think I learned, I think I always had a knack for like learning how to be an effective communicator. But this is the first time I was ever working with a global team, right? And
Mm.
we had people literally from everywhere. I had a very long time zone list, right? I literally have 4 clocks on my phone's wallpaper so that I can like know what time it is there before I ping someone. So I learned how to effectively communicate not only within my country, but outside my country with other people, with stakeholders of different kinds, and how they really assess and analyze situation, given that everyone is from a different background. Um, and other than that, I think the final thing which I learned as a design lead was we have to start leading by example, right? When you're an individual contributor in
Yeah.
various things, and you have to wear many hats. There is the more proactive you are, the more you will learn, the more you can help, the more you can help the company grow as well. So I try to do my best to extend my support to, be it the community team or be it the customer experience team or be it the engineering team, because engineering and I work very closely together, but rest of the teams as well. Learn their language, learn the way they work, learn the requirements that they have, work with them, collaborate with them. And that has been challenging, obviously, because it's a remote role, but it has been nothing but rewarding, right? And I would say that as a leader, a lot of I learn a lot from James, who's the co-founder, and he's one of the, I think, best leaders that I have worked with in a long time. So I really look up to how he manages and how he uh, kind of works around with design and non-design things. So it's really, really nice to learn those things, technical and non-technical. And yeah, I think those are the highlights of my journey. Yeah.
It has been so good. Like, I kind of agree with you. Like, being a like early stages always, in being a lead is very alone, because I've heard from a lot of people that it takes time to hire first, even if we plan to hire, and then second thing is hiring people is like, it's like a huge task, and then managing
Yeah.
it, you have to be ready, as a leader, I guess, to start being in a zone that, yeah, I have to manage people. And one point that you said that I really liked, and I really want to ask few more things, that you said like being leader is not just about managing your like design team, but also collaborating in the best way possible with other teams as well. uh, I want to ask that, like, how do you do that, or is there any method or anything that you have followed, or anything, any experiences that you have faced around that?
I think a simple thing is there's this really good book. Like I work with a very global company, so there's this really good book called Culture Map, right?
Hmm.
I spent my first month in ADP List reading that book. The reason I did that was because we need to acknowledge that everyone has individual differences. That is a fact. But there are cultural differences as well, right? There is something which is can be perceived very different in different parts of the world, the same thing. So I had to learn that. I think effective communication is key. There is, if you want to really collaborate, I would say effective over communication is key, right? Under communication is always harmful, because things get lost. Documentation is very important. Uh, Writing down comments, feedbacks, knowing what the conversations were, documenting all of that is really, really important. And other than that, it's not always work talk, right? It's good to kind of check in on them, kind of understand what they are doing. Like if we were in a common, given that I work remotely, I don't get the office experience of like, hey, how's your day going? Let's go get a coffee. Let's go down and like take a walk. We don't get that. So we have to find different ways to do that with different people in the team, be it the engineers, be it like not only the leads, it could be also like the engineers who are there in the team. Just chat up, talk to them, understand where they are at, how. comfortable or uncomfortable they are, and probably try to make things better for them, right? And find a way that you can support them. And I think that's what I try to do. I try to just talk to everyone. Like, to be
Hmm.
honest, that's what I do. I just come in on Monday and be like, hey guys, how you doing? Like, tell me status update of life. And that actually helps build a bond even when we are like far away, right?
Agreed.
Yeah. So that's
And
what I yeah.
yeah, sorry. I think this is only what you were talking about in Head Out as well. Like the culture kind of paves the path to your next journey, and
Yeah.
like you leading an example is really, really important.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, when the whole team is so far away, right? There is actually no human connection when you're doing huddles and video calls and things like that. You're always work, work, work. So when you take that time out, you get that uh, connection where you can share, you can feel comfortable to share feedback with me as well if I'm not
Yeah.
doing well, right? Maybe another team lead might not think it's necessary to come and tell the design lead if this is something that I should do or shouldn't do, right? They generally have that bias that, oh, let's not go tell them what to do. But when I am out there available, open for conversation, asking them, tell me, is everything okay or not? Am I doing my job fine? That's when
Yeah.
I get the feedback that I need as well to grow. Like, it is very important. Like, that is the best part, right? When we hired the product designer earlier, it was not only me who felt that they were not the right fit, unfortunately. It was everyone, because there was so much transparency and coherency within the team and understanding how someone's work is, that everyone had like a little conversation around it to understand, is it up to the mark? Is it slowing me down? Because if I have to go down and do extra work, it's actually slowing me down. So that's why having the support of your team is really important, so that when you make decisions as well, it's not impulsive, it's calculated. That
Yeah.
someone can give feedback if it's wrong, right? Like, that is the kind of team spirit that I always want to hone and create, even for the upcoming design team. Those are the plans that are there in place as well.
And that's really important. I feel the one point that I really agree here, no matter what, is the comfort that you have to provide to your team so that they can be open towards not just you, for the company, for everything. Because I feel as the team, if the team is not comfortable, then it's just a weird place. That's it. Is like you
Yeah.
have to make the team comfortable. Yeah. So I think this is really awesome. I really want to go a little back towards asking some non-professional questions. So I really want to ask one thing, that is, I really ask everyone who comes on the podcast, is that what has been one of your lowest point as a designer, and what has been your highest point as a designer in your life?
Lowest, lowest, lowest. So many lows. Which one should I pick? um, I would say post head out uh, was my lowest point. Like I said, pandemic hit in 2020, and post that, it was easily one of the lowest points that I have ever uh, professionally felt, I would say, and also emotionally, because your imposter syndrome kicks in. You start thinking, was this even the right time to transition? Like, why am I doing this? What is going to happen? Where is my career going to go? So many questions, and it can be very difficult to do it when you're stuck in a house alone. That's the worst part. It's nothing else, actually. It was the fact that I was stuck alone in the house, and I had to like keep waking up and thinking about it. And I
Yeah.
remember during that time, I used to just call Siddharth and I think just rant. That is what I used to do, and I'm grateful for all the people who were able to support me. I think there are a few folks in the design community um, that I connected with at that point of time. Uh, Obviously, Siddharth being one of them. There is also my there were these teammates, Fida and Sanjana and Head Out, who really like. I have never met people who like supported me the way they did, and that was so inspiring, and that was so like I would say uplifting in a way, right? And other than that, I met a lot of designers who, like Rahul Chakraborty, for example, we met on a Figma conference randomly, and then we became friends. And I could talk to them about all these things and like take action rather than feel upset, So it was like a big learning process for me how to come out of this entire imposter syndrome that I'm facing. Um, and to be honest, like I was not even ready when ADP list came to me. I was not ready.
Okay.
Mentally, I was not ready.
Hmm.
So when it happened, that was my highest point in design, I would say. I was in shock. I think I cried a little as well. Because I was like, oh my God, what just happened? Right? I was in disbelief for the longest. I remember telling uh, my product manager at that point of time in ADP list when I joined that I am super nervous. I don't know how I'm going to do, right? And I don't know what kind of a design lead I'm going to be. And I hope I don't break their confidence. And it was the high, like just after my low was my highest point, I would say. Uh, because after the storm always the sun comes out, right? So
Mhm.
I think this was my highest and low were very coherent, but yeah, that those are my two big points.
That's interesting. Now I really want to ask, like, it's been a long time you have been in design. You have a very wonderful journey. What's the next step? What's Arpita doing next?
Arpita is gonna chill for some time.
That's important.
I'm going to focus on my work, and this is a very crucial time for our company, I would say. I'm grateful for them to give me all the time and balance to do other things as well, to learn other things. But I will be focusing all my energy on building this product. I think we are at a very crucial stage. So that next, and also there is something that I'm kind of cooking on the side, something that I'm exploring in a venture of my own. So I do want to kind of make that happen by early 2023. So I'll tell you
Looking
after
forward.
the recording.
Looking forward to it.
Yes.
Cool. Then just now two curious questions. This is kind of the end questions. I want to ask first, if you would not have chosen design as a career, what other career would have it been?
Hmm. Interesting question. Um, so the way I chose design was like a way of getting away from engineering.
Yeah.
But if let's say design didn't happen, I would probably two things could have happened. I would have figured out another career to hustle into, probably psychology, to work around. I'm still very interested in psychology. I think it's one of the best topics for me out there. It's so good. I would love to become a forensic psychologist one day. But other than that, I think if I had to go in the field of engineering, then I would have probably tried to get back into development, and pursue that. Yeah. But I think I would have found my way into building products for sure. That's something that feels very naturally inclined. I think I'm a natural problem solver when it comes to those things. That is why when I found product design, it was a right fit. It was not like I had to think about it. It was just right. I started working with a product with my friends while I was with Ola, right? And it's not like I think it would have eventually led there because I would have had the same friends and we would have eventually figured out what to do. So sooner or later, design and I so had to meet. I think it's just how life is. So I probably would have taken the development angle given that I was highly interested in that. But yeah, in terms of careers, I have very wild career ideas. I wanted to become a lawyer at one point of time, but my mom already
Nice.
is. So my dad was like, chill,
One is enough.
One is enough.
That's awesome. The last question I ask on the podcast usually is, what are the two tips or three tips that you would like to give any budding designer who is trying to get into design?
Into product design, I would specifically
Yeah.
share for product design. I think the most important one is have an open mind to unlearn, right? One thing that I notice about product design is it challenges the way that we think, right? We have a lot of assumptions. So it is very, very important to unlearn certain false beliefs, right? Certain false ideologies. Um, the second would be don't be scared of your assumptions. It's a follow up to the previous one because I think assumptions are not bad, right? But it's important to know that it is an assumption and
Yeah.
how risky that assumption is, right? So understand where your assumption is coming from, and then try to analyze how to work with that, right? How risky it is and how it'll impact your project, and that will kind of make you understand if you have to go and investigate further on it and things like that. But self awareness of assumption is very, very important. um, I actually have four, so these are two. This third one is always try to ask the right questions. I think it's
Mm.
really, really important in the field that we are to not jump to conclusions, right?
Yeah.
It's very important to ask, why am I going there? Why is my head going there? What is the solution? How is this happening? Why did I do this? Why am I taking this step? Like constantly, like, um, ask yourself what you're doing. And the final thing would be always be open to feedback, like always, like no matter what happens, no matter how confident you are with your project, always be open to feedback. That also teaches you how to give feedback effectively, because that's a very big part of your role as well. So it is very, very important to be feedback hungry, going around and asking people and getting as many reviews as possible. So I remember when I was applying for ADP list as well, I had like 20 mentorship sessions lined up because I wanted to know what I'm going to pitch tomorrow. Does that even stand
Mhm.
to the expectations of company standards today? Like, if I'm going to go ask for a salary that I want, will they even give it to me? Like, am I even worth it? So knowing that, knowing where you stand, having a personal awareness of it is obviously
Yeah.
important, but getting the industry perspective is very, very helpful, because sometimes what happens is we might have those intentions and traits in mind, but it's just not showing, right?
Yeah.
And you have to get the feedback to make sure that, oh, I need to start showing these kind of things right there. So yeah. And I think these are the four things: unlearn, work with your assumptions, um, be feedback hungry, and always ask questions. Always. I actually have a small video. I did a group session with ADP List on how design thinking, or I would say
Unlearn.
yeah, how design thinking basically makes me a better person. Like, you can
Yeah.
actually use these things on a day-to-day basis to hone yourself, shape yourself as a person, analyze certain situations, become a little calmer in life. I was very short-tempered earlier, so
Mhm.
I think it really helped me channel the way I agree to things or disagree to things, right? My impulse, I could control it. My assumptions, my false beliefs, so much perspective. Oh my God, my brain just exploded. So, yeah, these four things are really, really important.
That's interesting. Does that video is on YouTube? The video
Oh,
that
yeah,
you just
that is
mentioned.
on YouTube. Yeah, yeah, it
ठीक
is
है.
on.
I will link that down in the description for sure.
Sure, sure, that'll be great.
Yeah, and that's the wrap, to be honest. But I think it's because it's not live. I would have taken questions from the people, but it's I really want to take one from my side. I really want to ask, like, there's a thing like you learn psychology, and I really want to ask how, like, for sure is that's gonna help in design, but how do you figure out that, because psychology is a different thing, right? How do you figure out what's the balance between using psychology for the design?
Well, the way I look at psychology is, I would say design uses a very small part of it,
Hmm.
uh, cognitive,
Hmm.
behavioral, those kind of things. The reason why I wanted to do psychology is one, again, to unlearn, I would say. It was very, very important for me to start like studying about it to unlearn. It's a good practice because the way you perceive people, the way you understand people, the way you understand their minds can teach you a lot about situations, right? Um, Managing problems on a day to day basis, actually. And like I said, I wish someday I'd be a forensic psychologist. So I would say that so I started doing a course in psychology from this open university. Eventually, I hope I go do a PhD in it when I have time in life, maybe when I'm older. So I would say I take parts of it to communicate better during my interviews. Like, I love user interviews. I love talking. It's quite obvious. I love talking. So, uh, and when I do user interviews, right, one of the key aspects of our job is to make the user feel comfortable so that they can share their side of the story. And sometimes we do touch base on very sensitive things and we want to understand like bad experiences while we are also understanding good experiences. So it's really important to kind of empathize with the user, and you can't truly empathize if you don't understand them, right? If you don't understand a certain signs and tells in the way they are. For that you have to be a very good listener, right? That is like I tell this to everyone actually, that being a product designer is very similar to being a it's I would draw an analogy here of being a therapist, right? So I have noticed how they will listen to you. They will not immediately jump to a conclusion as to what solution you need, but they listen to you till they'll dig deeper, like how we
Hmm.
dig deeper to understand better, and then provide a way, a direction. I wouldn't say a solution, but a direction, a medium for you to kind of achieve whatever you want to achieve personally. For us, it's more in terms of whatever they want to achieve as a service or as a as a need that they want to solve in their day to day basis. So that is one parallel that I see very common. We both listeners, right? Both these fields, we are active listeners. And it's really important to be a good observer. I think that's what psychology teaches me, how to observe and what to observe, right? And then how to modify the situation accordingly. But I wouldn't say the whole field subject would be beneficial. Parts of it, very small parts of it, would be beneficial directly, right?
Hmm.
Holistically, yes, you just become like a better communicator, but parts of it are directly like cognitive biases are something that you can learn from psychology very easily. Behavioral, like understand, we do that empathy map, right? Like,
Yeah.
is what do they feel, what do they tell, and things like that. Uh, you can't do that if you don't really understand, right? And empathy is something that is very loosely used in this industry. So I wanted to make sure I don't use it loosely, right? Because a lot of times people misunderstand empathy with sympathy, and it's not the same. I don't want to give people what they are asking me for. I want to give them what they need, right? And a lot of times they don't know the best need for them. So I want to make sure that if they are trusting me to solve that for them, I do it properly.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a great answer. I think that's a wrap for the podcast. Thanks, Arpita, for coming in. Any last words that you want to say?
Um, I mean, thank you so much for having me, Abhay. I'm super glad that you're on this journey. And for everyone who is watching this, thank you so much for listening all the way till the end. My DMs on socials are always open. I am anyone wants to come to Bangalore and meet me can always let me know. I'm super accessible, so feel free to reach out to me. You can also book a session with me on ADP list at any point of time. If you don't find a session, please DM me on ADP list. I'll figure something out. And yeah, I think I was super glad that we could have this conversation. Thank you so much for having me, like, truly.
Thanks a lot for coming as well. I will link all the socials and everything down in the description for anyone who want to check that out. Thanks a lot, Arpita. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.